What's up everyone, Scott the Dog Dad here of DogDadOfficial.com and creator of the online raw feeding course, Raw Feeding 101. Now, I teach people every day how to start raw feeding their dog or dogs via one-on-one coaching and, as I previously mentioned, the Raw Feeding 101 course. And one of the most common, if not the most common questions that I get is, how much is this going to cost? Is this going to be expensive? How much do I have to spend? Does my dog's weight have anything to do with it? These are all valid questions, and it can cost a lot to feed raw if you don't do it properly. The more creative that you are, and the more open-minded that you are to where you can source your food from and how you can source your food makes a massive difference. That's why I created this list of money-saving opportunities to help people save as much as possible. Now, unfortunately, many of these opportunities go unutilized by many raw feeders, and they end up spending way more than they have to, especially new raw feeders. With that said, let's go ahead and get started on the top 16 ways to save money when feeding raw. Now, you don't have to use every single one of these opportunities, and you may not have used to, but the more of these opportunities that you utilize, the more money that you will save and the easier raw feeding will be on your wallet. Number 1, telling friends and family that you feed a raw diet to your dogs. Now, I know that's kind of backwards because I know that a lot of people in your life will end up giving you a little bit of flack for feeding your dog a raw diet just because they don't really understand what's going on. But if you are willing to be open and honest with the people in your life that you do feed a raw diet, you won't believe some of the scores that you can make with free food. As a personal example, on Christmas Eve of 2016, my wife received a Facebook message from a high school friend saying that they had just slaughtered a cow for their family, and there was about 100 pounds of meat that they were not going to be using simply because it's not, the prime cuts, not the stuff that human beings tend to buy off the shelf. So we were able to acquire 100 pounds of free beef. And I just want you to think about that for a second. If we are saying that beef is on average, depending on where you are, anywhere from $3 to $4 a pound, that's anywhere from $300 to $400 of free beef. That's crazy. Now, I just want to reiterate that one more time so that it sinks in. That's $300 to $400 of free beef. 100 pounds, $300 to $400 of free food for our dogs, just because we told somebody in our lives that we fed a raw diet to our dogs. With a little bit of openness in your life and telling those around you that you feed raw, there's no reason why you can't make these same scores. Be open, be honest, tell the people in your life how you're feeding your dogs, and you'll be amazed at the amount of free food that's going to come your way. Number 2, telling your neighbors that you feed a raw diet. Number 2, telling your neighbors that you feed your dog or dogs a raw diet. Just like telling friends and family that you feed your dog or dogs a raw diet can lead to some huge scores like the beef score that I just told you about, telling your neighbors can lead to a lot of the same results. As another personal example, and I'll warn you right now that if you're kind-hearted and a little bit on the queasy side, then this may be a little bit too much information for you, but I'm going to give it to you anyways because I feel that it's necessary information. A couple of weeks ago, our neighbor's goat was giving birth, and she was lucky enough to have 3 kids. Unfortunately, one of those kids did not make it through the birthing process. Now, what could have happened is that poor little baby goat could have ended up in the ground somewhere and served no purpose. But because our neighbors knew that we fed our dogs a raw diet, we were able to give that baby goat a purpose. And she wasn't just put in the ground and forgotten. She was given a purpose simply because our neighbors knew that we feed our dogs a raw diet. So just like your friends and family, tell your neighbors, don't go knocking on their door and be like, hey, I feed a raw diet, and go all crazy and freak them out, but let it come up naturally in conversation. Don't force it, but don't waste an opportunity to talk about it. And just like telling your friends and family, you'll be amazed at some of the free food that can come your way. Number 3, buying a second freezer. Now I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive that you're spending money to buy a second freezer and you're going to be spending money on electricity as long as it's on, but let me just take you full circle on this idea. Let's first address the cost of the freezer. You don't need to go to, RC Willey or some store and spend $500 on a brand new freezer. You can get one on a local classifieds ad by using a local indoor yard sale website on Facebook or something like that, and spend little to no money, because some people just give them away to get them out of their house because they bought a new one. You can spend little to no money getting a brand new freezer. I was able to get a full stand-up freezer that's taller than I am for less than $30, which has lasted us for years. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to acquire that freezer in the first place. Now let's address the second concern with the new freezer, which is spending the electricity to keep it on. Yeah, you're going to spend a few bucks because it's running throughout, the day, the week, the month. But let's go back to that beef reference that we talked about a little bit earlier. We were able to score $300 to $400 of free food. But if we wouldn't have had that second freezer, we wouldn't have had that additional space to keep that meat, we would have lost out. And that is months and months of food that we got for free and would have missed out on without having that second freezer. So yes, there is some initial investment through getting and paying for that second freezer, as well as keeping it on month to month. But if you do it right, and you keep your eyes open for these kinds of scores, and you're open with your community, and those things have the opportunity to come your way, you can actually be saving yourself a lot of money by having that second freezer. Number 4, buying in bulk. Now, all of you Costco and Sam's Club members know the benefits of buying things in bulk, whether that's razors or it's food or it's whatever. And I'm telling you that no matter where it is that you source your food from, almost without exception, if you are able to buy that food, whether it's meat, bones, organs, whatever it is that you're going to be feeding in the raw diet, if you're able to buy that in bulk, you're going to be saving yourself a lot of money. Number 5, marked down and discounted food. Have you ever been walking through the grocery store and saw that rack of ribs or that package of steaks crazy marked down at 25, 50, 75% off the regular price? Snag it. Even if you aren't going to be feeding it right now because you have plenty of food, freeze it. Snag it and freeze it and save it for separating into meals later on. This is one of those situations where having a second freezer really comes in handy, because if you come across some crazy sale where you can really save some money on discounted meats, where are you going to put it if you don't have a second freezer? Buy markdowns, freeze it for later, and save. Number 6, posting in online classifieds. Posting in online classifieds is a huge opportunity that can save you a lot of money, and it's ridiculously simple. All that you have to do is put up a posting that says something to the effect of, I feed my dogs a homemade fresh diet. I recommend staying away from the words raw just because it can mess with people a little bit mentally. So a homemade fresh diet, and I'm willing to take any food out of your freezer that you're going to be throwing away. Whether that's because you are just cleaning out your freezer, maybe you're making room for this year's hunting kill, maybe it's freezer burnt, whatever the reason is, I'm willing to take that off of your hands and I will come and get it for you, and I'll just get it out of your hair. I've even included a script that you can use when you bought this product, and all you have to do is copy and paste modify a few things to make it make sense for your area, and you're good to go. Number 7, posting on indoor yard sale Facebook groups. Now this method is nearly identical to posting in online classifieds, but gives you a much wider reach. Not everyone is checking online classifieds anymore, but almost everyone is on Facebook. Because there are so many people on Facebook, this gives you a super wide reach, and you can use the exact same template script that I provided for the online classifieds posting for the indoor yard sale Facebook groups. Just post it up, wait for somebody to contact you, and save that money. Number 8, posting in local raw feeding Facebook groups. It's important to keep this local so that it's cost effective for you to contact these other raw feeders in your area and go and get it at that cost effective rate. But you'd be surprised at how often local raw feeders will either buy too much food that they thought they could store but they actually can't and don't have the room for, so they need to get rid of somehow. Maybe their dog ended up having an allergy to it. Maybe their dog just flat out refuses it. Or maybe they even raise local livestock and they give eggs or they have milk. All of these are opportunities for you to get food that is appropriate for your raw fed dog or dogs, which can very often, if not all the time, be very cost effective. Because if you're someone that bought too much food and you can't store it, you're looking to get rid of it quick because it's thawing quick, and before you know it, it's going to go bad and it's going to make a mess. So just keep your eyes open. If you want to, you can put together a similar post to put up in these groups, but I find that the best way is to simply be a part of that local raw feeding community and just keep your eyes open for these kinds of opportunities. Number 9, purchasing your food through a co-op. Now, unfortunately, co-ops are not available to everyone, but co-ops could very well be said to be the holy grail of saving money when it comes to raw feeding. A co-op essentially works by multiple people coming together and buying foods for the raw diet in massive amounts, therefore getting huge, drastic discounts on that food. Now, if you're smart and you want to take advantage of a co-op, I would recommend by searching through all of the raw feeding Facebook groups and just simply asking, hey, I'm from such and such state or such and such county. Does anyone know of any co-ops in my area? You might even get lucky and have some of these groups that have a list of co-ops, and you can simply look through the list to see if one is available for you. Point being, if you have the opportunity to use a co-op, you need to be using it because it is going to save you a massive amount of money as well as time, because someone else that is running that co-op is doing all of the sourcing for you. So not only are you saving the money, but you're saving the time. Number 10, make friends with hunters. Now, it may or may not surprise you that many hunters are only out there hunting for trophy opportunities, whether that is a big rack from an elk or a deer or whatever that it is. But a lot of these hunters will end up discarding a lot of that leftover meat and will only take the prime cuts. So you're losing a lot of the organ, a lot of the bone, and a lot of the meat from that animal that isn't actually being used. More importantly, many of these hunters will be more than willing to simply get rid of that meat and bone and organ so that they don't have to deal with it. Always, always, always offer to come and get it from them. Never ask for them to deliver it. You want this to seem like you're doing them a favor. I'm going to come and get this food off of your plate so that you don't have to deal with it. So if you have that guy at your work, at your job, at your gym, wherever, that's always wearing camo and you know hunts, it's time to start making friends, because you could be saving yourself a lot of money and getting yourself a huge variety that you normally wouldn't be able to get. Because I don't know about you, but I can't go and buy venison in my local grocery store. Number 11, start hunting. Now, if you are already a hunter, it's time to start keeping and freezing and later portioning all of those leftover cuts and meats and scraps and bones and organs that normally you wouldn't be keeping. It's time to start saving those and feeding them to your dog or dogs. Now, if you're not already a hunter, it's pretty obvious why it would be extremely beneficial for a raw feeder to be a hunter. If you were to compare the cost of, say, a shotgun shell or a rifle round in comparison to buying a whole pheasant or buying a whole deer or elk or anything else, I'll let you do the math on exactly how much money that would be saving you. But hint, it's a lot. Number 12, game processing businesses. The amount of meat, bone, and organ content that can be discarded or gotten rid of at a game processing facility can be quite extensive. And you would be surprised at just how cheaply you are able to get those scraps if you're willing to make some phone calls. Now, I'll tell you right now, be prepared to be told no. A lot of these people are not really on the up and up when it comes to raw feeding and will be a little bit wary of selling you those kinds of things. But if you are willing to be told no a couple of times, willing to make enough phone calls, you would be surprised at how much you can capitalize and save on that opportunity. So get to making those phone calls, start saving that money, because there are a lot of hunters out there that don't want to process their own kills and will bring them to a game processing facility, and that's going to save you money. Number 13, butcher shop scraps. Now, just like the game processing businesses, the amount of food that is left over in the processing process can be absolutely staggering. When you go to the store and you see all those beautiful cuts of beef and pork and this and that, you would be astounded to see the amount of food that was cut off and trimmed in a very specific way to make it grocery store shelf appropriate. And you can capitalize on that. Start calling up your local butcher shops. Now, just like the game processing facilities, be ready to be told no, because those people, some of them, can still be very wary. But every single year, more and more of those butchers are getting smart to the fact that there are more and more raw feeders. And these scraps that usually, up until now, had to be gotten rid of in one way or another, now there's an opportunity that a raw feeder is going to come by and purchase that food. So you need to be taking advantage of the fact that these butchers are getting smart to the fact that they have a whole new market opening up to them. So get on the phone, start calling all of your local butcher shops, be prepared to be told no, but when you find that butcher that is willing to work with you, make them your friend. Go into their butcher shop, purchase some prime cuts, whether it's beef, pork, whatever it is, make them know that you are going to be a loyal customer and a consistent customer. The more of a relationship that you can build with that butcher, the more money that you are going to save. And you might even score some free stuff if you're willing to develop that relationship enough. So get on the phone and start building those butcher relationships. Number 14, meat and livestock processing plants. Just like game processing plants, just like the butcher shops, the amount of food that you can acquire from a livestock processing plant is crazy. Livestock processing plants give you a huge opportunity to be able to source some amazing deals depending on what it is that that particular processing plant processes. And by that I mean the specific animal that they process, whether it's goat, beef, pork, whatever. Just like all the other things that we've been talking about, but even more so with the livestock processing plants, they're not able to easily sell every single part of that animal on a local market or a market at all. So if you can make those phone calls and build that relationship, you would be absolutely blown away at the deals that you'll be able to get on some of these foods, whether that's meat scraps, whether that's organs, whether that's raw meaty bones. Just tread carefully and be prepared to be told no. Be prepared to be told no, because these people are also a little wary about selling these things to random passerbys. So make sure that you're doing everything that you can to build a relationship with the owners, with the managers, whoever it is that is helping run this livestock processing plant. Do whatever you can to build that relationship, because the bigger the relationship, the more opportunity that you have for return and maybe even free food. So get on the phone, start building those relationships just like you have or should have done with the butchers and game processing businesses. Build the relationships and gain on the returns. Number 15, make friends with local farmers. Now, despite the obvious fact that farmers often sell extremely high quality foods like milk and organic eggs, there is an unfortunate reality to farming that you as a raw feeder can seriously capitalize on and save a lot of money. This unfortunate reality is the fact that sometimes animals go before it's their time to go. Fortunately for you, oftentimes getting rid of an animal that went too soon is not worth that farmer's time. The amount of time that it would take to properly dispose of that animal is simply going to take away from too much of the time that they need to continue to maintain their farm in proper order. And you can capitalize on that. Now, oftentimes, farmers can be much more emotionally invested in their livestock than, say, a livestock processing plant. They watch these animals grow up from babies, from infants, all the way to adulthood before they leave the farm, or maybe they don't even leave the farm until nature takes them naturally at an old age. But the point is that you need to approach this a little bit differently than a processing plant. Make sure that you are extremely honest and forthcoming about what it is that you plan to do with that animal or future animals that they contact you about. Tell them that what you want to do is provide a high quality of life for your dog by taking advantage of the opportunity of that animal going too early. That you want to give that animal, their animal that they watched grow up from infancy, a purpose. You want to make sure that that animal that they watched grow up didn't just get put in the ground and forgotten or left to the predators of the area. That you want to make sure that that animal that they went through the time and the effort to raise is being given a purpose. Farmers will often highly respect that you have that high of a value for life and that you are wanting to make sure that one of their animals is being given a purpose even after they've fallen too early. So build that relationship, tread carefully, and treat it with the utmost respect for both the farmer and the life of the animals that they are raising. Number 16, collecting roadkill. Now, I know that that sounds a little bit gruesome, and it's really not for the kind-hearted or those with a queasy stomach, but it is a huge opportunity if you're willing to take advantage of it. But there are some things that you need to know. One, obviously, being that you need to be able to assess the viability of that animal. If you come across a fresh kill versus a 3-day-old kill that is starting to bloat, you need to be able to identify these things so that you are sourcing some fresh meats and not something that's been out in the sun for days on end, spoiling. Secondly, know your laws. There are many states and counties where collecting roadkill is illegal. So you want to make sure that you are contacting your county to make sure that doing that kind of thing is legal. Another advantage of contacting your county is being able to establish a relationship with them. They may be able to give you a phone call if they get a phone call about a freshly killed animal. We've all seen that deer on the side of the road and wondered what happens to it. Well, someone comes and picks it up, and it's your county. And if you are able to form a relationship with your county, then a lot of the time they are more than willing to let someone else go and pick up that kill and put it to use, because that is that much less time that they have to invest and that much less manpower, which equals money, that they have to invest. So know your laws, know your animals and how fresh it is, and try to develop a relationship to make sure that you are taking advantage of every opportunity possible. That's been the top 16 ways to save money while feeding a raw diet. And I want to thank you for purchasing this product, because I know that you purchased this product because you want to provide your dog with the highest quality of life possible through feeding a raw diet. So if this product has alleviated some of your concerns about the costs of feeding a raw diet, I invite you to join me over at dogdadofficial.com and get hooked up with the Raw Feeding 101 online course. It's going to teach you everything that you need to know about transitioning your dog or dogs over to a raw diet. It's going to help you overcome mental barriers about feeding a raw diet. It's going to tell you where to source your food and what equipment that you need. And it's also going to take you from day 1, your first meal, all the way through week 4, and even what you should be doing afterwards. So if you want to provide that high quality of life for your dog, if you want to do it through feeding a raw diet, then join me at dogdadofficial.com and get hooked up with the Raw Feeding 101 course.